Hi there. Welcome. I'm Bob Thompson, and I'd like to welcome you to the world of college cost challenges. We started this a while back, and it's about the college costs. And quite honestly, we've been about this for the last 35 years. And we finally are in editing and re-editing of a book, The World of College Cost Challenges. And we thought this last fall, we should restart the program, this TV program. Originally, we were just talking about college costs. Because of the title and the content of the book that's in editing and galley-proof form, we thought that it would be good to share with you the chapters and what's behind making this book. It's really parents sharing with parents the good, the bad, and the ugly, and so on. But parents who are willing to share their stories, and that's kind of an interesting phenomenon in and of itself. But it is one of getting more attention in the last 4 or 5, 6 years than the past 20 or 30 years combined. There's more stories, there's more talk, there's more dialogue, more articles and so on about student loan debt. It wasn't that long ago, 8 or 9 years ago, that we were talking about student loan debt approaching $800 billion. It wasn't that long ago. Now we're talking about $1.5 trillion of student loan debt. And we talk a lot about things have leveled off in the last year or two on student loan debt. But what's coming out now in these articles is that parents are taking on more debt. We knew the parents were participating in this debt scene, but that's increasing, and parents' intent is to maybe level off the extent or the volume of student loans. We think it's an issue. We've thought it's an issue for quite some time, and quite honestly, I share in the beginning of the book how I got personally involved and how some friends that ski with out west, 8 of us having 31 children, and back then looking at the enormous cost of educating these children. It was really a task that kind of started to absorb and became a passion of a couple of us. But let's take a minute of what some of our previous programs recently. A journey through chapters, I've already talked about that we thought, and the intent is to just look at how we observe, based on these contributions from many parents and the stories that they have, and what we can do better if we can. A journey through chapters. 'Tis the FAFSA season. I don't know if we were approaching Christmas then or not, but actually back in September and October, we're looking at FAFSA and preparing that. The unlevel playing field, parent monopoly, a new GPS for parents from 2 dimensions, 2 stages, to 7 dimensions, and the importance of being aware of the value, the benefits coming out of approaching and following the direction of 7 dimensions of the problem. Strike 3, you're out. A program where Crazy Bob had to make an illustration and use our props in striking out with baseball. Keeping score. The last program was what's your handicap? Keeping score. And the lesson there, if there are lessons to learn, is how do you monitor no plan? And how do you keep score when I don't even know the game or the handicap? What's your handicap when it comes to college cost challenges? We've been about this for a long time. In a year and a half, actually 16 months, Diane in my office, I think she was trying to kill me or something, but we had 82 seminars on college cost at that time. And a number of those were up in Vermont. I think we had a seminar for each branch of Vermont National Bank. And in fact, a couple, 2 or 3 seminars for some of the larger branches. But we've had seminars in New England a number of times, out in Ohio, where I have some trips and where I'm from. But anytime I go to a convention, I'll contact reporters, radio stations, TV stations, and talk about the challenges of college. We have seminars here locally. We've had seminars saying, "Hey, Mom and Dad, let's talk about a subject that we don't really." This is a private subject, right? Parents hold this close to the vest. A little bit of New England in that scenario, but it's one of, okay, it's a rite of passage of being a parent, and everybody else does it. Everybody else faces these challenges. So I'm smart. I'm well educated. We are well educated, and we'll do it ourselves, right? The title of the program today is Discern Reality, Don't Avoid It. Discern reality, don't avoid it. Now, in some of these seminars and interviews that I've made, and I failed to mention that 2 presentations were to international financial planning associations. The old IAFP, the International Association of Financial Planners, and what has morphed into FPA, Financial Planners Association. And it's really evolved and grown into International Association of Financial Planners. But I made presentations at 2 of these, one in New Orleans and the other in Los Angeles. And breakout sessions, large breakout sessions. These are large international meetings. But the breakout sessions, 300, 350, 400 advisors. And talking about what our program is today, but addressed to financial planners. So the information that we give out, and we're preparing the 36th annual college cost projection, and if you're interested in that, but we go in and survey. It used to be with the College Board and with LIMRA, the Life Insurance Marketing Research Association. We used to do that for 20, 25 years, but LIMRA, we don't have the book that they prepared for years and years and years. So, but we survey, here's an old one, 1993-94 college costs put out by the College Board and LIMRA. We survey 3,300 4-year colleges and universities. And this 36th edition will come in and find out how many universities have an annual cost, tuition and fees and cost over $70,000. Pretty staggering when you say that's today's cost. But our book and our programs are really addressed to one, early stage parents. Early stage parents we define as being pre-kindergarten. Midstream, kindergarten to, let's say, 9th grade. And then sometimes we call them panic and crisis, but that's usually, that's not property and casualty. That's panic and crisis of parents of sophomores going into their junior year this fall. Junior and senior year, wow. College is around the corner and we've saved X, but it should be Y, Z, and Q. So now we're getting down to the point of, it's got our attention. It's got our attention. But our program is Discern Reality, Don't Avoid It. Just a quick point here. When I look at words, language, vocabulary of the King's English, and I look at something like avoid versus ignore, I toyed with the idea of discern reality, don't ignore it. Avoiding is different than ignoring. Ignoring is more of an intent to sense, the awareness, okay, my cognizant awareness that the issue is there, the challenge is there, the college cost, future college cost, I'm aware of that, but I'm ignoring it. Avoiding it is one of, I have to discern reality. And if my increased awareness is one of, I want to discern and dig down. I want to really research and dig down and be aware. I want to recognize the problem in greater detail. I want to discern what these issues are. That's way beyond a lot of Rip Van parents that wake up 14 years later and say, oh my goodness, this really is a challenge. And little Mary or Joanne or Jennifer or Jake, they, like their peers in school, somehow are selecting very expensive schools. So now the awareness is more acute. Discerning. Let me share with you a couple paragraphs in the book. And as we went through old notes, and we usually took notes after seminars, we especially made note of questions of parents, young parents, in the Q&A segment of the last 15, 20 minutes, sometimes more than that. And after everything's over, you'd have a bunch of people that want to extend that Q&A time and more personalize the question as to, well, we've got 3 children, we've got this situation, and so on. I pulled out a note from one of our seminars, and this was up in Vermont, Essex Junction, and a particular note in our collection of lessons from parents on interesting inquiries by couples, but during the Q&A. This was several years ago. An obviously strong and highly motivated mother stood up at the end of the presentation and said, personally, I've found your presentation intriguing, but I sit here and wonder, how do we sit and fit into your strategies that you talk about? And then she asked, you've mentioned and made reference several times to discerning parents. On our invitations and announcements, you're invited to a program of discerning families, discerning parents. She says, you've mentioned this. Discerning parents have done this and that. Discerning parents are this. We found that discerning parents have discovered successful ways of attacking the problems. That discerning parents were able to see through much of the complexity, on and on and on, she said. I think she was mimicking me having diarrhea of the mouth about this subject that I have a little bit of passion about. Let me ask you this. What is a discerning parent? Am I a discerning mother? Are my husband and I, as a couple, discerning parents? Help us, please. Looking back and rereading these notes, the mother's inquiry says volumes. She expressed what other parents have shared. Okay, you identify, you refer to, you talk about discerning parents. What the heck are you talking about? Yet another way of parents, discerning parents, saying there's a better way than repeating and repeating and repeating what doesn't work. Repeating and repeating what doesn't work. Aren't they really saying, do we have to make the same mistakes again and again and again and come out with the same short-sighted results? If we're going to dig into the subject, if we're going to seek and discern the subject in greater detail, if we're going to dig down and recognize not only the problem, but some of the potential solutions, some of the strategies. My complaint to professionals is basically we're repeating again and again and again what we've espoused for the last 20 or 30 years. Save early, save a lot. Save early and save a lot. Now, over the last 10, 15, 20 years, this thing has popped up in one of our programs was 'Tis the Season of FAFSA. At an early stage, parents kind of get sucked in to, well, certainly will qualify for financial aid. Financial aid becomes a part of our solution. Financial aid is the answer. Financial aid, year after year after year. Timmy is 2. His sister is 4. Financial aid. We have 2 in school at one time. Financial aid. And it kind of drives me crazy when we look back and we hear stories from parents, and they've shared, they're very willing to share paragraphs. In some cases, I got one note from a lady in Carolinas, and she had 4 pages, single space. This is what we're suggesting to younger parents, okay? Willing to share and say, wait a minute, our dependency was really brainwashing us that there's financial aid out there. Hello? Financial aid today, most of it is in the form of loans. Now, I said I'd come back to this article, and I'm talking about in our next program, I'm going to use the same page in our program called the Philanthropic Planner. And in that segment, we're going to talk about philanthropy and education, philanthropy and college cost. This particular Wall Street article, I believe, was this last Monday, and and it's about Robert Smith making the commencement address at Morehouse College in Atlanta, where he made a grant and promised to pay off all of the student loan debt of the 400 graduates at that commencement. To see a replay on TV of the expressions on the students' faces, looking around and saying, did he really say he was going to pay my student loan debt? And then it panned to parents, and parents standing up and cheering and smiling, hugging each other. The euphoria that came through this announcement by Robert Smith. Robert Smith, by the way, obviously is very, very, very successful businessman and is worth approximately $5 billion, I've heard. But his gift is $40 million to cover 400 graduates and their student loans. The one student graduating, being interviewed, said, my student loans total $100,000. So think about that. But this is our program on philanthropy. What I wanted to talk about discerning was that we reach a certain point where we discern not only the issue, the concern, the problem, the challenge, but we have become aware of there's a better way. There are solutions. 2-stage, save early and save a lot. I wasn't able to save early, and I certainly wasn't able to save a lot. We went from 2 incomes to 1 income, and then we went to 1.5 income, and then another baby, another child. We go through this an adjustment period again, and well-meaning, and we tried. If you recall, early in our program, early in the book, we talk about identifying 3 categories, 3 classes of parents that have no plan segment, and a large group in the middle that have kind of an informal plan. And this small group on the side, the third group, 4%. Now this hasn't changed in 20, 25, 30 years that we've observed this. About 4% of the parents go through this experience, and I label it as being successful. And then I get into this long paragraph, a couple of pages, and we're asked, well, how do you define success in going through this process? I define it as parents that look back and say, we have little or no loans, little or no student loan or parent loans, and we haven't negatively impacted our retirement. And the reason I say that they're successful is that the original kitty that they started the college experience with, they have most, if not all, of that kitty 4 years after the younger or youngest graduates from college. I'd say that's a high degree in my interpretation of success in this process. But we have other parents that have even borrowed against their 401k. They're heavily in debt, and they're only 14 years, 12 years, 9 years from retirement, and they're looking at a smaller and smaller retirement income. Some parents are paying for college-related debt after they retire. Minimize that screen for one quick second. When we're talking about retirement and people at age 65, the number of people age 65 and older that are paying their own student debt. You tell me that the financial planning, attorneys, accountants, planners, and so on, banks, mutual funds, 529s, everybody's got a calculator. You tell me that we're doing the job in increasing the awareness of the importance of different dimensions of addressing these challenges. It is not save early and save a lot. I've been to 3 meetings in the last 2 weeks. Several financial planners, several brokerage firm representatives, agents. All 3 of these say, we do college planning. Crazy Bob being Crazy Bob, crazier. And I respect everyone that's out there doing a job, okay? What I have a little bit of criticism is that the ivory tower presents programs that trains their people to educate the consumer, and we're lacking as we go through that. There are exceptions. SavingForCollege.com, Mark Kantrowitz, I think, does a heck of a good job, but we don't have the critical mass of planners that subscribe to a lot of the information out there, and a lot of it is revenue, commission, income generating. I have nothing against that, okay? What I'm saying is we've got to increase the awareness of early stage parents of the importance of these other dimensions that I talk about. When we look at some of these issues, in human nature being what it is, we don't ignore, we kind of avoid it. I mentioned that. But we're not aware that this unlevel playing field that we're on is a disadvantage and handicaps parents. And it's that awareness. Once we're aware of the situation and we recognize not just the college cost projection in a calculator, that's not recognizing it, okay? Morehouse in Atlanta, Georgia, $48,000 cost to attend Morehouse, okay? 13 to 15,000 of that 48 is the average aid for a student, okay? That's still $33,000 to $35,000 to attend college, okay? If we look at that challenge and say that a lot of everyday people have no or little ability to save for college. I'm the first one in my family to go to college. I came from the Rust Belt in Ohio. I got $100 at Christmas 3 Christmases out of 7 years. And I was very, very thankful for that $100 each year. In fact, you'll find out that Crazy Bob had a crazy mother. And my mother, knowing that she couldn't give a lot of money, she took 100 $1 bills and Scotch taped them together and made a roll of 100 $1 bills and put that in a sock. And that was a Christmas present for college. The greatest gift that I ever got. But what I'm saying is a lot of people attending Morehouse, a lot of people attending UConn, a lot of people attending who are qualified and able to go to top schools cannot afford to go to some of those schools. And yet we have, my next program, Philanthropic Planner, we have billionaires that are not addressing the education costs, but they're addressing other issues. I have no problem with that. But raising $3 billion in a campaign, $5 billion in the next 3 years in a campaign to schools that have $20, $30 billion of endowment. And I'm saying, okay, where does this money go and how quickly does it go out to students? Or do we just continue to increase the cost of education? For 28 years, 28 of the last 35 years, we've increased college costs in our projections by 6%. 3 years ago, we dropped that projection, that assumption of increase to 3%. And we're seeing schools trying to hold down. Interestingly enough, one of the primary reasons for trying to hold the cost down is enrollment. Enrollment is going down. The number of students that get out of high school, that go to college, the enrollment figures are going down. 3 colleges in Vermont, small independent colleges, are closing. Just came out the last week or two. We have other schools across the country that are closing because enrollment has gone down, but their costs still exist. So we've got a big issue out there, and we need to talk about it, and we need to help early stage parents to understand not only the problem, but understand that there are solutions and strategies and how to do this better so that they can look back and share with parents, maybe the next generation, and share their stories of how they addressed that and how they benefited by coming into some of these strategies. Hey, I get carried away a little bit, but I even brought props, and I didn't get to my props, but we need to dig down. We need to dig down into some of the problems. We need the mother of all shovels to dig down and discern what the subject is and how we can solve it. Come back again. It's been fun.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.